Imagine waking up one day and realizing your country is no longer ruled by a king, a government, or even an empire, but by a company. Not a nation, not a parliament, a business. This actually happened, and it happened to India. For nearly 200 years, one corporation, the British East India Company, controlled trade, armies, taxation, laws, and millions of lives. It did not just conquer land, it rewrote the global economy. This is not just Indian history. This is the origin story of modern capitalism, corporate power, and global inequality. India before the British. Before the British arrived, India was not poor. In fact, India was one of the richest regions on Earth. In the year 1700, India produced nearly 1/4 of the world's total GDP. That means every fourth coin circulating globally came from India. Indian cotton clothed Europe. Indian steel armed armies. Indian spices preserved food. Indian shipyards built vessels stronger than European ones. Cities like Delhi, Agra, Murshidabad, Surat, and Dhaka were global economic hubs. Europe did not discover India. Europe depended on India. Birth of the East India Company. In 1600, England was not powerful. It was a small island nation struggling to compete with Spain and Portugal. Queen Elizabeth I signed a royal charter creating a private company, the East India Company. Its mission was simple: buy cheap in Asia, sell expensive in Europe. No plan to rule, no plan to govern, just profit. But profit, when combined with weapons and political chaos, has a way of growing teeth. Entering India. The company entered India as a guest. The Mughal Empire was still powerful. British traders bowed before Mughal emperors. They paid taxes. They followed local laws. Factories were just warehouses. British soldiers were guards, not conquerors. At this stage, India allowed the British to stay. This was the greatest mistake. The turning point. Bengal. Everything changed in Bengal. Bengal was the richest province in India, possibly the richest place on Earth. Through bribery, betrayal, and political manipulation, the company interfered in local succession disputes. In 1757, a small British force defeated the Nawab of Bengal at the Battle of Plassey. This battle did not prove British military superiority. It proved the power of money and manipulation. After Plassey, the company gained the right to collect taxes. A trader became a tax collector. A merchant became a ruler. Company becomes the state. The East India Company now ruled without accountability. It had its own army, its own courts, its own currency, its own laws. Indian taxes were no longer used in India. They were sent to London. Company officials became insanely rich. These nabobs returned to Britain with fortunes so large they reshaped British society. This was organized economic extraction, destruction of Indian industry. Indian weavers once made the finest cloth on earth. The company destroyed them. British policies forced Indians to sell raw cotton cheap, buy finished British cloth expensive. Indian looms were shut down. Entire communities lost livelihoods. This was not accidental. It was designed to protect British factories. India became a raw material supplier. Britain became an industrial powerhouse. How India funded Britain. Indian tax money funded British wars, British railways, British ports, British factories. India paid for Britain's rise. The Industrial Revolution was not just powered by coal and steam. It was powered by Indian wealth. Britain did not grow rich because it was smarter. It grew rich because it controlled India. Famines under company rule. Between 1760 and 1850, India suffered repeated famines. Millions died. Grain was exported during shortages. Taxes were collected during starvation. Company profits increased during mass death. This was not natural disaster. This was policy-driven famine. 1857. The breaking point. Indian soldiers rebelled in 1857. This revolt terrified Britain. The company was exposed as reckless, brutal, and uncontrollable. The British government dissolved the company. India was taken directly under the crown, but the damage was already done. Legacy and conclusion. By the time the British left India in 1947, India's share of global GDP had fallen from 25% to less than 3%. The East India Company no longer exists, but its legacy does. Modern corporate power, resource extraction, economic inequality. This story is not just history. It is a warning. Because the most powerful empire in history was not built by a king. It was built